All right, we're getting started. Good evening and welcome to the April 10th, 2018 regular City Council meeting. Before we begin the meeting, let me review the procedures for the meeting. The audience is reminded that this is a business meeting of the City Council, therefore clapping, cheering, and outbursts are not permitted. Speakers must complete a request to speak form located at the entrance to the council chamber. Submit your completed form to either the city clerk or the sergeant at arms. When your name has been called, use the microphone at the lectern on the audience's right and state your name and address. If you do not wish to publicly state your street address, you may state only your city or unincorporated Brevard County. Speak to City Council as a body. Do not address the mayor and City Council members individually. Be mindful of the timer at the front of the room and wrap up your comments before your speaking time ends. The following time limits will generally apply. Speaking times may be varied by the mayor with the approval of City Council. Public comments, most agenda items, and the consent agenda up to 3 minutes. Items designated as a public hearing and petitions, remonstrances, and communications up to 5 minutes. An applicant, representative, or person who has legal standing to support or oppose a quasi-judicial matter will be permitted enough time as reasonably determined by the City Council to create a record before the City Council. These matters generally include site plan, plat, zoning of property, conditional use, variance, building-related permit or appeal, abandon and vacate request, annexation, and other applications of law to specific properties. So thank you for joining us this evening, and we'll begin the invocation. If you wish to participate in the invocation, please stand. And that will be Amy Julian from the First Church of Christ Scientist. Welcome.
Thank you. Dear God, the God who is love, the divine intelligence governing all, we ask your help at our meeting tonight. Give us the humility to listen and the wisdom to respond to your guidance and the grace and poise to communicate graciously. Strengthen us in our common purpose to see more of your order, justice, and harmony in our community. We ask your blessing and protection for our elected officials, first responders, employees, and volunteers who work to make our government run smoothly and effectively. As we ask that you bless us and cause your face to shine on us, we thank you for the goodness we see today in our city and for the progress we know is inevitable. Dear Father God, we thank you for your ever-presence and constant care, now and always. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Julian. And if you join me to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item A3, roll call, Mr. McEwen.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Here.
Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Present.
Councilmember Moore.
Present.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Here.
Mayor Meehan.
Here. Item A4 is proclamations and presentations, and I have one tonight. Right, thank you, Kathy. This is, I need B.G. Wolf, President of the South Brevard City Council of Beta Sigma Phi. And okay, so then what we'll do is take a picture afterwards when they, okay. And proclamation, City of Melbourne, Florida, whereas Beta Sigma Phi sorority is the world's largest group letter women's service, cultural, and social organization, and whereas the Greek symbols on the Beta Sigma Phi sorority badge signify life, learning, and friendship, and whereas Beta Sigma Phi sorority has over 12,500 chapters in 36 countries, which include the chapter in the city of Melbourne. And whereas Beta Sigma Phi sorority proudly boasts over 160,000 members who work for all charitable, health, and cultural organizations, raising funds and donating time and effort to those in need. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor, City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, do hereby proclaim April 30th, 2018 as Beta Sigma Phi Day in the city of Melbourne and encourage other Beta Sigma Phi sisters to join with the South Brevard City Council of Beta Sigma Phi in saluting Beta Sigma Phi Day. Witness my hand and the seal of the city of Melbourne this 10th day of April 2018. Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor. Congratulations. You're welcome. And would the rest of the group come up? It's so good to have you here. On the other side. All right, okay. All right, we count 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much. Congratulations. I know it turned out good. Yeah. Okay. All right. You read that right. Okay, next is A5, approval of the minutes of March 27, 2018 regular meeting. Council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Moore.
I move for approval of the, what'd you do with them? The March 27th general meeting.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of the March 27, 2018 regular meeting minutes by Ms. Moore, second by Mr. Elfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number A6 is the city manager's report. But before I go on, I need to let everybody in the audience know that we have added item C19 to the end of the agenda. And Mr. McNeish, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple things I want to fill you in on. It seems like things keep happening after the agenda gets put to bed, and but the two things I want to point out to you tonight. This isn't something I would normally bring up at the table, but I know there has been an email circulating related to some allegations of purchasing impropriety in the city, calling for an investigation, and I just want to make sure that you're all aware. I don't think all of you have seen it. It's something that the accusations that come from a group of some current and some former employees. I want you to know that a full investigation of the accusations has been already, an independent investigation has already been undertaken and completed. We've investigated some of the other issues, and this has been a little bit of a saga internally, but I want you to know that we have been into that very deeply. I'll be happy to talk to each of you. I have provided by email just a few minutes ago 3 documents, so each of you will have those at your disposal. One is an outside independent audit of the purchasing issues that were in question. One is the internal investigation of a whistleblower complaint that was filed that has been closed out. And then the third is an internal memo related to some of the issues we were having with performance evaluations and how these folks are trying to deal with it. The 4 folks who wrote to you all are represented themselves as 4 city employees. The fact is they are not. There are 2 former city employees in the group and 2 current employees. And I only bring it up to this table because it's fresh. It's just come out. I haven't had the opportunity to speak to each of you individually. I just want you to know that some very serious accusations have been made. We take them very seriously and have taken them very seriously as they've arisen. So I want to give you an opportunity to come up to speed quickly on that because I didn't get the chance this week to speak to each of you. The other one is, as you know, an investigation has been ongoing by the Brevard County Sheriff's Office White Collar Crimes Task Force related to your funding of a roof repair, and really the investigation related to the subsequent disbursement of those funds and whether any of them went astray from their intended purposes. And as you know, an arrest has been made in that. And what I am happy to tell you that thanks to some efforts of the Attorney's Office and others who have worked this thing along the way, the half of the money, or almost half of the money the city of Melbourne allocated for this purpose, $7,000, has been returned to the city of Melbourne. The roofer has given that money back to the city, so your half, or half of your contribution to that roof job has been returned, meaning that you have now only contributed half of what was actually spent on that roof. Now, as I understand it, the investigation continues, hasn't necessarily been closed, so I don't really want to talk about a whole lot of that anymore either. But we promised you that once that had reached certain milestones, then we would pursue administrative process to make the city whole. I'm very happy to report that, at least financially, that has taken place, and we can put that money now rest safely back in your bank account.
Okay. All right. Very good, Ms. Dolly. All right. Any other questions for?
I just want to make a statement. I want to thank Councilmember Paul Alfie for bringing this to light and helping us get that money back.
Amen.
And then if I can say, Mayor,
Yeah, Mr. Alfrey.
I did meet with the city manager, city attorney, and appreciate both y'all working diligently on this, and especially speaking about the earlier, about the complaint. When I met with you today, of course, everything was there, provided, ready to go, and I really appreciate you working behind the scenes on this, because I take taxpayer money seriously, and again, thank you very much.
All right. All right. Anything else? Nothing? Okay. Next is public comments. Item number A7. Okay. Thank you. All right. First is Eric Ellebrock.
Mayor, while he's coming up, I want to add one thing that I intended to say earlier, and Councilman
Okay.
Alfrey just reminded me of it.
Sorry, Mr. Ellebrock.
One of the reasons I brought this up tonight, and I very rarely will discuss an employer-related kind of issue here, but there's an allegation being made that we'd love to keep this quiet. And my favorite words, cover up, have been used, that we're being accused of trying. Well, the last thing on earth that we're trying to do is cover anything up that happens here. I thought a full, open conversation right here in the sunshine would be a good idea, which is one of the reasons I bring it up tonight. We're not hiding behind anything.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, because we did, I don't know about anybody else, but I received the email 10 o'clock Sunday night, and then I had a meeting with Mr. McNeese on Monday, which I usually do, so. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Eric. Sorry about that.
All right, Mr. Ellebrock.
Problem.
Now, while you're here,
Ma'am, if I may, my name is Eric V. Ellebrock. I live at 1948 Tyler Avenue, and I alone am responsible for what I say, and I'm also responsible for the way I say it.
all right, now before you get started,
Yes, ma'am.
there are times that you yell out and spew things out in the audience, and it's the behavior that needs to stop. So I'm going to give you a
traditional,
warning.
ma'am.
I'm going to give you a warning.
Thank you very much
The
for the warning.
second
I appreciate
time-
that, ma'am.
You're going to have to be escorted out by the police.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay? All right.
And I'm presuming arrested, right?
No, unless you're doing something
Okay.
illegal.
Yeah, so if the
Okay.
police, I'm not even
right.
going to get into that. I've talked to lawyers about that already. We're good.
Okay.
I am responsible for the way I say things. You know, it was recently pointed out to me by a member clergy that if somebody has a stroke, a heart attack, a psychotic event over something I say or the way I say it, I would be morally responsible. I looked at him and I said, Rabbi, I'm okay with that. All right, now if we can jump beside this, we all know that the vice mayor of West Melbourne has been arrested, okay, due to stuff involving Honor in America, which is a city-owned property that they rent. And, you know, it's just a snowball type of thing. And then on top of that, we're getting all these allegations about, you know, purchasing purchasing mistakes and so forth and so on. You know, I've been coming to this council forever, and I've never, ever, I'm a native to this city, and I've never seen stuff like this. I mean, there's never been serious misappropriations of cash and allegations like this. We're getting into the big time. And that's a moral issue. Now let's talk about morality. The last time I was at this council meeting, a group of lawyers came up and tried to interest the city into a class action lawsuit suing the pharmaceutical companies to recover damages that the opioid addiction has done to the city of Melbourne. I'd like to point out that there are other cities in California and Texas who are suing energy and oil companies because of, sea level rise. And guess what? When the sea rises, the river's gonna rise as well. And we're gonna have that's gonna have a heck of a bigger impact on our community. Maybe I would like to think about getting some of these attorneys to come and give the same kind of presentation that the attorneys for suing the pharmaceutical companies did, because we're going to jump on that bandwagon. We might as well jump on the other bandwagon. But it goes back to moral choice about jumping on the bandwagon. Is it really something, all I can see happening from us suing the pharmaceutical companies is a bunch of our citizens who are lawyers getting richer. I don't see any serious financial windfall for the city of Melbourne. I see a serious financial windfall for the attorneys. It's all about optics. I like that word. I'm going to use that from Mr. Khan's word. It's all about optics. Okay? What does it look like? Do we want to have the city of Melbourne suing the pharmaceutical companies? We might as well have them suing the energy companies as well. It's about optics. I am responsible for what I do. I've been here a long time. And until I die, I will be here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next is Gregory Overton.
Good evening, Mayor Meehan and council members. How are you this evening?
Good. Address, please, or you can state city or county.
Gregory Overton from the Honor America Liberty Bell in Melbourne.
Okay.
I am the new president of Honor America at 1601 Oak Street in Melbourne. And as a newly elected president of Honor America, I would like to first of all thank the city of Melbourne and the city council for your past sponsorship of the Liberty Bell and Honor America. For the lease of the building and the house and the purchase of the building by our school children in Brevard County. The board of directors of Honor America we was going to talk about the funds, but the council member had talked about that the funds were being discussed and being returned. So I'm not going to go that direction. I want to say thank you all for having those funds, under investigation and they're being returned. And I'd like to continue to work with the Melbourne City Council and keep the Honor America up for our city, our school children as history. It is a very important part of our culture here in Melbourne. I know Miss Moore was the past president of Honor America, and she worked hard at it. And now that I have stepped up and been elected in by 11 members of the board, that I want to work hard and diligently to open it back up, to make sure that our veterans in the community, our children in schools are there to come and see the history. And I will do everything in my power to keep it up and running. And so please work with me to keep this in our community and our culture. It is very important. Thank you again for your contributions to Honor America. And I'm honored that I was voted in as the new president of Honor America Liberty Bell. And Miss Moore knows me well, and we've worked together in the past to get things going there. So I want to thank you as well. And I'm stepping in to new shoes now at Honor America. And so please, City Council, Mayor, and City of Melbourne, work with us and let's get this Honor America Liberty Bell up and running to our community, our school children, and our veterans. Thank you all so very much for everything and your contributions.
We wish you the best and thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
All right. All right, I'll close the public hearing. Okay, and we have A 7.1, presentation to council. This is Reclaim Water System, Leanne McDonald from Reclaim Water Distribution Division. Thank you for being here. It's exciting that you're going to give us a little update on the system.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor, for the introduction, and thank you, Council, for giving me 5 minutes of tonight's meeting so we can keep our focus on water. We spend the month of April focusing on water because it is our most basic, yet our most valuable of all resources. Water is absolutely part of everything we do. It sustains our public health and safety, our food supply, energy production, our environmental and our economic systems. We focus on water because for centuries we've thought of our traditional supplies as always being abundant, clean, and cheap for the taking, but this is no longer the case. Population growth is putting increasing pressure on our traditional ways of water. More people mean more water, and the relationship between population growth and water demand is not simply a linear one, but it's an exponential one. Not only will each new person use 100 gallons a day for domestic and personal use, but how about all the hidden water that goes into the products we use and the food we consume? 35 gallons to produce just 1 cup of coffee, 650 gallons needed to make a single hamburger, 1,000 gallons to put somebody into a cotton t-shirt and pair of blue jeans, and the 500 gallons a day needed to keep our grass green and thriving. So each new person brings with them a demand much more than 100 gallons, but a total water footprint of more than 1,800 gallons as a daily average. We have to begin to ask ourselves, where will all of this water come from? Our traditional supplies, the aquifers, lakes, and rivers, cannot sustain all of this increased demand without unacceptable impacts. This is made evident by the fact that 2 recent water supply plans conducted by the water management districts have identified 350 million gallons a day of additional water demand that will have to be met by either water conservation efforts or alternative water supply. And that's just for Central and North Florida regions. These demand pressures and other environmental concerns are challenging us to rethink our ways of water and the way in which we use water. It's calling for an approach where all water is managed in balanced and integrated ways, where all water has value, because all water must have value. Included in this balanced and integrated effort is reclaimed water systems. Reclaimed water, as you know, is domestic wastewater that receives secondary treatment, then advanced filtration and disinfection. Reclaimed water is a product of engineered systems designed to do just what Mother Nature's been doing since the beginning of life here on Earth. The hard truth is, there is no new water. All the water here on Earth today is all the water there's ever been and all the water that will ever be. Sorry. It's all the water here on Earth. It's all the water that will ever be. Nobody's in the business of manufacturing new H2O molecules. So the water that you're drinking right now truly is recycled water. It's been around the globe and reused 1 million times over through Earth's natural water cycle. So with all this in mind, and in an attempt to secure our water future, Florida has led the way in recycling of our most precious resource. 20 years ago, as a state, we were able to reclaim almost 500 million gallons of water every day. Fast forward to 2016, and we've just about doubled that volume, to where throughout Florida, we were able to reclaim 277 billion gallons of water in just that year alone. And these numbers will only increase as more people in our communities begin to see all of the true benefits that reclaimed water provides. Reclaimed water can be a direct offset for most, if not all, non-potable uses of water. This helps meet increasing demands from 2 of the largest categories of water use on a nationwide basis. That's irrigation and thermoelectric power generation. This will lessen pumping of our aquifers. It will delay expansion of our water production facilities and development of very expensive alternative supplies like salt water. Reclaimed water also helps to extend our local water supply investment dollars. We already pay to pump that water from the source, clean it, distribute it to homes and businesses, and then we pay to collect and pump used water away to our treatment facilities for another round of processing. So why dispose of it, never to be used here locally again? Why not further polish this water to a level so it's fit for repurposing, whether that purpose is irrigation, cleaning, construction, manufacturing and industrial use, environmental restoration, or groundwater recharge? I'd be remiss to stand up here and speak about the benefits of reclaim and fail to mention the original and perhaps most important one, and that's the additional option it gives us for how we manage our wastewater. Melbourne's disposal option was limited to a single deep injection well until we took the steps to invest in a reclaimed water production and distribution system. This giving us a very much needed and environmentally sound alternative for wastewater generated by the community. So every drop of water that goes to reuse helps extend the life of that one injection well. Reclaimed water is locally controlled. It's drought resistant, sustainable source of water that supplies millions of gallons each and every day for more balanced and beneficial use. And I'm proud to say that Melbourne's been safely operating our system for 30 years, and we were able to reclaim 40% of plant flows last month with the help of our customers like Northrop Grumman, GE, Rockwell Collins, Harris, Embraer, the Orlando Melbourne International Airport, 6 local parks, 2 public high schools, 1,000 additional commercial and residential properties, and my 2 favorite customers of all time, Mallard's Landing and Crane Creek golf courses, who together, just last night alone, reclaimed 990,000 gallons of water. So as we go through April, highlighting the value of water and challenging ourselves to save water, let's also challenge ourselves to think of water differently. Begin to judge it by its quality, not its history, and recognize that reclaimed water is water conservation because these systems ensure every drop is renewable and reusable. Thank you again for your time, and most importantly, thank you all for your support of our program.
All right. Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Any questions for Ms. McDonald? All right, very good.
Okay.
Thank you. Item B, unfinished business. B8, ordinance number 2018-12, zoning text amendment on mobile catering kitchens. Ms. Allison Dolly.
Was I on? Thank you. Ordinance number 2018-12, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to mobile catering kitchens, making findings, amending Chapter 46 of the City Code entitled Solicitation, amending Section 46-19, Purpose and Intent, amending Chapter 56 of the City Code entitled Traffic and Motor Vehicles, amending Section 56-35, Parking Vehicle for purpose of vending, displaying, or advertising goods, services, or place of business, amending Appendix B of the City Code entitled Zoning, amending Article 2, Definitions, amending Article 7, Accessory and Temporary Use Structures, providing for severability and interpretation, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. I think I fixed your mic problem. There, somehow it got shut off on this little guy. So, all right. This is under Community Development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, staff doesn't have anything further to add on second reading.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer?
Yes, I have one.
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
I didn't read anything detailing a size limitation on this mobile kitchen. Is there a size limitation?
There's not necessarily a size limitation. The size would be limited by the site and where they could locate it. Typically, it's going to fit in a typical parking space. If it's much larger than that, then it's going to take up additional required parking possibly on site, but there's not per se a maximum square footage.
So is it a case-by-case situation, basically?
Well, remember, these things are portable and they drive down the road. So they're not necessarily, you're not going to find something that's very wide and long because it's got to be mobile.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I have a comment.
Okay.
Last Friday evening, down in the Ugali Arts District, they were celebrating April in Paris, and it was tremendously successful. I can't even put an estimate on how many people were there. I know a lot. And I walked around, and we had many food trucks, and we also had the food truck that was in question that started this at Intercoastal Brewing, and it was wonderful. And the people said, thank you, thank you, thank you for allowing us to have this facility at Intercoastal. Just wanted to pass it on to you.
And they're in the audience too. So. All right, so do I need, first of all, I got to open it up for a public hearing. I have a sign-up sheet. Eric Ellebrock.
He left.
Okay, he left. Okay. All right, so I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor?
Ms. Moore.
I will move for approval of ordinance number 2018-12, based on the findings contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-12 by Ms. Moore, and it was a real close second between Mr. Thomas and Mr. Elfrey. Mr. Elfrey second that. Yeah. All right, so this is a second reading. It's going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item C9, let me get to that. Under new business, and this is the task order RE1039 with Reese Engineering for the design-build services required to furnish and install an emergency standby generator at the Hibiscus Booster Pump Station. And this is under Engineering and Public Works and Utilities, and we have Ralph Reigelsberger.
Thank you, Mayor. This item before you is in regards to that we operate a Hibiscus Booster Pump Station, obviously on Hibiscus Road, and it's used to maintain the flows and pressures in the downtown area of our water distribution system. The pump station currently does not have a generator, automatic transfer switch, and fuel storage in regards to facilitate operation there when the electric is out. This project will allow the pump station to be used to meet reliability requirements and ensure that the proper flows and pressures are maintained, especially during a storm event. The current water production capital improvement project schedule and budget currently has $50,000 and a project number 31017 for the Hibiscus Pump Station for engineering design. The construction funds of approximately $300,000 were to be included in the next fiscal year 18-19. We have been successful in regards to going to a design build. We've used it at well number 4, and we're currently using it at Canova Booster Station. So the construction, I'm requesting the construction phase of the project is being accelerated to better respond to storm events and outages. This project, because it was initially scheduled to be constructed next year, will require a fund transfer from the unappropriated budget savings of $264,130,000 from water and sewer capital improvements to this project to be able to fund it, to have it take place as a design build. And obviously, we would take out the construction of next year's because it wouldn't be necessary. I would request approval of task number REI 039 to Reese Engineering and a budget transfer in amount of $264,130 from water sewer capital improvements, miscellaneous projects to the Hibiscus Pump Station 250 kilowatt generator project number 31017.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reigelsberger. Is any questions?
Madam Mayor?
This project, Mr. Thomas.
Yes, sir. This pump station is very important in one of the major transportation corridors in the city. So I guess the question I had looking over this is, why didn't we fund it for this FY for 17-18?
We just put in for the current year in regards to the $50,000. We were going to do design one year and then construct it the next year. During Hurricane Irma, it became necessary for us to rent a unit. So we do our budget way in advance, trust me. And so it wasn't envisioned that they would have to follow so close together.
And so the work will be done before hurricane season starts up this year? The
It'll
work will be done?
before the peak of the hurricane season,
Okay. Very good.
we hope.
Yes. Boy, and they're predicting a lot.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Thomas.
move for approval of task order number REI 039 to Reese Engineering, Inc. of Winter Springs, Florida, in a not-to-exceed amount of $314,130 and a budget transfer in the amount of $264,130 from Water and Sewer Capital Improvements, miscellaneous project number 30099 into the Hibiscus Booster Pump Station 250 kilowatt generator project number 31017.
A second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item C9 as stated in council's package by Ms. Thomas and second by Vice Mayor Minus. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number C10 is the emergency construction contract award for the water main connections and valves located in Highway A1A associated with the Central Satellite Beach Water Main Replacement Project to Don Lachetti Construction, Inc. of Melbourne, Florida. This is under Engineering, Public Works and Utilities, and Ralph Rigelsberger.
Okay. The city is in the process of completing design for water line replacements in the Central Satellite Beach area. It's actually going to be a number of phases and extend for an extended period of time. But as part of the project going on now, there are 4 streets with the water mains that connect to the existing 16-inch water main currently located under A1A. In order to replace the water line connection, Highway A1A will need to be open cut to excavate and replace the existing pipes. The Florida Department of Transportation, as you may be aware, is in the process of milling and overlaying Highway A1A. The paving in Satellite Beach area is not yet complete, but will resume in May of 2018. The city needs to complete these water main connections and install 2 additional isolation valves on the 16-inch water main in Highway A1A before the project resumes. Funding is available within the Water and Sewer Capital Improvement Project, project number 30017, the Central Satellite Beach Water Main Replacement, and the recommend approval of an emergency contract with Don Luchetti Construction in the amount of $281,390 to complete that portion of the project.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Rigelsberger? None? All right. So, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Mr. Elfrey.
you request approval of emergency contract award for a portion of the Central Satellite Beach water main replacement, project 30017.
Second.
Okay. Did we get this all in?
No, actually, no, I was almost
wanna-
done. Yeah, and I'll
Yeah.
continue. Don Luchetti Construction, Inc., Melbourne, for the amount of $281,390.
Okay. All right, and then I
Second.
have a second. All right, so I have a motion for approval of C10 by Mr. Elfrey, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item C11 is ordinance number 2018-13, A and V number 381. Miss Allison Dolly.
An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to vacation of the remaining portion of a 15-foot wide alley located between South Harbor City Boulevard and the Florida East Coast Railroad right-of-way, the southwest corner of W.H. Jackson Street and South Harbor City Boulevard, as shown on the plat of J.S. Stone's addition to South Melbourne, according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 1, page 60 of the Public Records of Brevard County, Florida, and the F.C. Powell subdivision of lots 8 through 12 of the J.S. Stone's addition to South Melbourne, as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 35, Public Records of Brevard County, Florida, making findings, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under engineering, Ms. Jenny Lamb.
This abandon and vacate request may look very familiar. In September on September 20th of 2017, we approved, or you approved, the west 80 feet of this alleyway and it to be vacated. Since that time, the property owner has purchased more property and he now owns the entire frontage along W.H. Jackson Street. So he has made a similar request to now vacate. It's approximately 160 feet of the alleyway. And as we found back in September, it was the same exact circumstances with the utility companies. There were no utilities within that alleyway, so there were no objections to this request. So it met all of the criteria of City Code Section 52-100B, and staff recommends approval of ordinance number 2018-13.
Thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb? All right, this is quasi-judicial. Do I have any disclosures? No. Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? No, I will bring it back, close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
Request approval of ordinance number 2018-13.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-13 by Ms. Lopez, second by Ms. Moore. And I do like to make a comment. The project looks really great, and I'm glad to see we're doing some good things in South Melbourne.
Exactly.
And so it looks really good. Any other comments? All right. Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number C12 is the consent agenda, A through C. Nothing was pulled, so council, what is your pleasure?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Thomas.
recommend approval of consent agenda items A through C.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda items 12A through C by Mr. Thomas, second by Ms. Moore. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item C13, we had nothing pulled. C14 is, let me get to that, lien rescission 17001019. This is under Fire Department Code Compliance, and it's Mr. Mark Harold.
Yes. Okay, again, we come to you for rescission, but this is at the city's request. An error in the paperwork from the orders resulted in a lien being filed that the city's requesting to rescind at this point. The paperwork error in question listed items of work without permit, but one of those items specifically was not identified, so prudent, it would have been prudent for the city to rescind that lien to correct that error.
Okay. All right. So any questions for Mr. Harold?
So I have a question.
Yeah, Ms.
So
Moore.
was there actually a permit on file, or?
The violations ended up being corrected, but because one of the listed items was not on that order, it kind of voided him being fined for it because it was not clearly stated.
Will we be going back on that?
The violation was corrected, so
Okay.
it would have been a moot point to go through that process again.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
All right, so we are watching to make sure he's in compliance then in the
Yes.
future? Okay, any questions for Mr. Harold? All right, seeing none, council, this is a quasi-judicial, any disclosures? No. Seeing none, this is a public hearing, any sign up? I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor?
Ms. Moore.
I move that the city recommends approval of Code Enforcement Board's recommendation to City Council that the lien filed in case number 17001019 be rescinded, and authorizing the city manager to satisfy the lien on the property at 2495 Ricky Road in Melbourne with no fine.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item C14 as stated in council's package by Ms. Moore, second by Mr. Elfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item C15 is, let me get to that, is the land development interlocal agreement between the City of Melbourne and the City of West Melbourne Lake Ibis subdivision. This is under community development. Ms. Cindy Ditmer.
Yes, this is a request for approval of a land development interlocal agreement, a stormwater maintenance agreement, and authorization for the mayor and the city manager to sign and execute all of the appropriate documents related to this. It's related to a proposed subdivision called the Lake Ibis Commerce Park that is located primarily within the city of West Melbourne. The property is located on the north side of Ellis Road, west of Wickham Road. There is a very small 0.174 acre strip of a parcel that's proposed within this subdivision, and that parcel is located within the city of Melbourne. So these agreements are to allow the development of that 0.174 acre parcel under the authority of the city of West Melbourne. Essentially, the interlocal agreement will give the development authority of West Melbourne, they'll be able to review the overall subdivision as one under their land development regulations. The agreement does spell out that our small parcel must still adhere to our city's comprehensive plan, as well as our stormwater requirements. And our city engineer has reviewed the proposal, and it is consistent with our stormwater requirements. The agreement will go for a 10-year period, and based on the review by staff and the small size of this, staff doesn't see any cause for concern for allowing this small portion to be developed within the city of West, not within it, but with city of West Melbourne regulations. So with that, staff would ask for 3 actions for council: approval of the land development interlocal agreement with the city of Melbourne and the city of West Melbourne, and authorization for the city manager to execute and record the agreement. B, authorization for the mayor to sign on the Lake Ibis Commerce Park subdivision plat. And C, approval of the stormwater maintenance agreement for the Lake Ibis Commerce Park subdivision, again with authorization for the city manager to execute and record the agreement.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ditmer. Any questions for Ms. Ditmer? All right, seeing none, this is quasi-judicial. Any disclosures?
None.
Seeing none, this is public hearing. I have no sign-up sheets. I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council, and we'll vote 3 different under C15, A, B, and C separately. So council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Yeah, Ms. Thomas.
move for approval of the Lake Ibis Commerce Park subdivision land development interlocal agreement between the city of Melbourne and the city of West Melbourne, with authorization for the city manager to execute and record the agreement.
Second. All right, I have a motion for approval of item C15, letter A, by Ms. Thomas, second by Mr. Elfrey, on approval of letter A, as stated in council's package. Any comments? All right, seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item C15B, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Thomas.
move for approval of the authorization for the mayor to sign the Lake Ibis Commerce Park subdivision plat.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of C15, letter B, by Ms. Thomas, second by Vice Mayor Minus. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item C15, letter C. Council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Thomas.
move for approval of the stormwater maintenance agreement for the Lake Ibis Commerce Park subdivision, with authorization for the city manager to execute and record the agreement.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item C15, letter C, approved by Ms. Thomas, second by Mr. Elfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number C16 is ordinance number 2018-14, conditional use request of the Quarters Brewing Company. Miss Allison Dolly.
Yes, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, amending the official zoning map as it relates to the general zoning ordinance number 2005-120 by granting a conditional use to allow a microbrewery and the consumption of alcohol, beer, and wine on the premises in a 5,500 plus or minus square foot portion of an overall 0.25 plus or minus acre developed site, Zone C3 Central Business District, located on the south side of New Haven Avenue, approximately 230 feet east of Vernon Place, 901 and 903 East New Haven Avenue, providing for conditions of approval, providing that the conditional use granted herein may be revoked by the City Council if the conditions of approval are not met, providing that the property shall be designated on the official zoning map by the symbol CC3, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under Community Development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is the first reading of an ordinance granting a conditional use for the on-premises consumption of alcohol, which will be beer and wine in this case, and also a conditional use for a microbrewery in a 5,500 square foot building on an overall 0.25 acre property. The property is Zone C3 with a mixed-use future land use and is located in our downtown Melbourne CRA. The applicant is proposing a microbrewery operation with the consumption of beer and wine in 2 existing units. Additionally, an accessory use to the business will be arcade games, which will be located in both of the units. The applicant has submitted a floor plan, which is in your package this evening, that shows the basic layout of the 2 units. They will have up to 100 seats between the 2 units and a maximum occupancy of 160 persons, 80 per unit. As with several of our past conditional use requests in the downtown, staff has added conditions that address some of the issues related to noise, security, occupancy, and the queuing of patrons into the business. And with that, the Planning and Zoning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this request, and staff would recommend approval of ordinance number 2018-14 based upon the findings and conditions contained within the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer?
I have one.
All right, Ms. Moore.
The planned hours of operation, they are listed here, and are these the same as the other businesses of like breweries, etc., in downtown?
I'm not sure what hours you're referring to, but they'll follow the same requirements of closing by 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's what they state in there.
Of every, yes.
Okay.
That's citywide.
Thursday and Friday, 2 a.m., and Saturday, 2 a.m., but 11 o'clock the remaining days of the week.
And that's their option. Our alcohol code allows us to have businesses open that sell alcohol till 2 a.m. 7 days a week.
Okay, thank you. I just need that clarification.
All right, any other questions? All right, seeing none, this is quasi-judicial. Any disclosures? Seeing none, this is public hearing. I do have a sign-up sheet, Eric Ellebrock, but he's not here. All right, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor.
Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of ordinance number 2018-14 based on the findings and conditions contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-14 by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Mr. Elfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number C17, ordinance number 2018-15, Ms. Allison Dolly.
Yes, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, amending Chapter 2 of the City Code entitled Administration, amending Section 2-171, Composition, Terms of Office, amending Section 2-172, Meetings, Authority, amending Section 2-173, Duties, Goals, and Objectives, providing for the repeal of Section 2-174, Support Staff, providing for severability and interpretation, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under Community Development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is the first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 2 as it relates to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. This will change the allowable composition of the committee. State law and Florida Administrative Code had changed back in July of 2016, trying to provide greater flexibility for this board that's required through our SHIP funding requirements. There's three main changes proposed within the ordinance. They are to lower the number of committee members from 11 to 9, lowering the number of members that are required for a quorum from 6 to 5, and also to pass a simple majority vote to 5. And additionally, probably the biggest thing is lessening the number of categories that the member composition must be appointed by. It's a very complicated list, and it's been very difficult to fill all of those positions over the years. This committee has had difficulty having a full board, getting a quorum, so we're hopeful that these changes that the state made will actually help us on all those fronts. Currently, there's plenty of vacancies on the committee, so this change isn't going to affect anybody's current position either. So with that, staff would recommend approval ordinance number 2018-15.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer?
Madam Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
Yes, Cindy, why didn't we just implement the changes that were passed in July 2016? Why didn't we just implement them then?
I'm not sure that we were aware of them until about 6 months ago. It came to our attention as we've talked with the state, with the Florida Housing Finance Commission, that these changes had been made.
Yeah, because it just looks, just from reading through this, it looks like we struggled, like you said, with having the right numbers to be able to get business done. And we could have probably saved ourselves a little bit by implementing it sooner, hadn't we known about it, I guess. So.
Right. This committee doesn't meet regularly. They actually, their biggest job is every 3 years they review our local housing assistance plan, which they're in the process of getting started on now. Mm-hmm. As part of it, they're not a regular every month meeting board as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing none. Council, what is your pleasure? Item C17.
Mayor?
Excuse me. Okay, so Ms. Moore.
I move for approval of ordinance number 2018-15.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-15 by Ms. Moore, second by Ms. Lopez. Discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item C18 is the Melbourne Housing Authority appointment of one member. This is from the city clerk's office. So I appointed Murray Wolf, so I just need a motion for approval.
Mayor?
Ms. Thomas.
Move for approval to approve the mayor's appointment of Murray Wolf to the Melbourne Housing Authority.
I second.
All right, I have a motion by Ms. Thomas, second by Vice Mayor Minus, to approve C18 as stated in the council's package. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item C19 is the approval to grant and accept easements related to the Highline project. And who's going to report?
I am.
Okay, so this is under Community Development, Cindy Dimmer.
Yes, first let me apologize to council for the lateness of this item. Staff really only became aware of the urgency of this on Friday after the agenda was already out the door. I will say the developer and HUD are on their sort of last few steps of wrapping up the financing for this project, and we wanted to make sure that we did everything to accommodate that time frame so that it could move through. So this is a request for council to approve the granting and accepting of easements related to the Highline project. The HUD financing is requiring these easements to be conveyed at the time of the developer and the HUD closing on the financing, which will also happen simultaneously with the city's transfer of the parcel. These things will all happen really right before construction begins on the project, so you can start to see some of the timing that's becoming apparent for the project. There are 3 easements that the city will convey to Highline Apartments. There is a drainage easement for one of the Highline project drainage pipes to go across city property. There's an access and solid waste easement, which will allow pedestrian and vehicular ingress egress, and will also allow the location of a solid waste enclosure on the city property. And then there additionally is an easement for FP&L to service the Highline project and the Hinderger project from the south, from the Melbourne Avenue right-of-way. And then there's also one easement that will be conveyed from the Highline project to the city of Melbourne, and that's to allow a city drainage pipe to cross the Highline project property. And so with that, staff would recommend approval for the city manager to execute and accept easements related to the Highline project concurrent with the conveyance of the city transfer parcel to the Highline Apartments LLC in substantially the form as presented this evening.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer? And thank you for doing this on a Friday night, and getting it done. I do have a sign-up sheet. Laura Yang. Hello.
Good evening, council members. It's Laura Young. I know I write it way too fast, so everybody thinks it's Young. Laura Young, address is 7380 Morrell Road, Suite 200, Melbourne, Florida 32940. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Dean Mead, and Dean Mead represents the Highline project. No, I've broken my own.
Okay, we won't charge you.
I want to stay. Okay. It has to go down. I'll just hold it. I promise I won't break it. No, we very much appreciate, we had been working with staff for a couple days vigorously to get these easements in final form, and really the final form, the form of the documents were already contemplated, and many of them are attached to the developers' agreements that were approved last year. What really needed to be finalized were the legal descriptions and the sketches for the easement areas, and that did take a little bit of time, and we've been working with the lender to make sure everything's in order. We have it's an exciting time. We're going to rate lock very soon, and that means closing is going to be a certain number of days after that. So we're in the home stretch, and we did, Cindy's correct, it wasn't until Friday that we had final, yes, we need to get this done as soon as possible, and everybody worked very hard, and we appreciate staff and Allison and Mike's efforts to get that done, and the folks on our side too. So there are 3 easements already contemplated under the developer's agreement. It's just the timing of granting them that is changing. They have to be granted because they're beneficial and needed for the project to be successful and function and to be acceptable in compliance with all the city codes. We have to have those easements in place. So any lender would rightfully want to have them in place. So we do ask that you approve them tonight, as staff has recommended as well. And Sam is here to answer any questions, as well as I am if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Any questions for Ms. Young? All right, seeing none. Thank you.
Mic.
All right, so council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor.
Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval for the city manager to execute and accept easements related to the Highline project, concurrent with the conveyance of the city transfer parcel to Highline Apartments LLC, substantially in the form as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item C19 by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Ms. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. All right, thank you. Good seeing you, Mr. Zimmerman. All right, so we are at petitions, remonstrances, and communications. Do I have any sign-up sheets? No? All right, Ms. Moore.
I have to finish the story that I started 2 weeks ago when I put out a plea for help in finding the Blue Star Memorial marker that went down during the hurricane on US 1. The Garden Club has went out to the junkyards to see if anybody turned it in because it's brass. Nobody found it. But the best part of the story is we have found it.
Oh, wow,
it's right
good.
where it fell. It was fell face down. It fell face down. I mean, the whole city's been looking for this thing for me. The thing fell face down, sort of got bedded into the ground, got mowed over, and palm fronds were on it, and it's perfectly safe, a little dirty, but we have it intact, and now we're going to look for a new place to put it, hopefully mounted on a huge boulder. So it's safe.
All
Just wanted to bring it up to current.
Very good. Does it have to be on US 1?
Yes.
Okay.
It
All
has
right.
to be on a federal highway.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? All right.
Mayor.
Yeah, Vice Mayor Minus?
Okay. It's just on my heart that I want to thank Councilmember Moore for her great job as the president of Honor America, and that the great job that she did, and that pretty much her name has been vindicated in this. They have made an arrest of the correct person. She has been humiliated. She has been embarrassed and all. But I want to thank her for her great job as city council member and for doing a great job as the Honor America president.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, no other business. I'll adjourn at 7:35.
I didn't think